All right, we are doing topic 0-3, which is quadratic functions and equations. Today's date is today. Our objective, we're going to graph quadratic functions and solve those. Little basic information first. This is what quadratic looks like. This one has a minimum or a low point. That is the vertex. You can either have a minimum or a maximum. If it were like that, you would have a maximum. The axis of symmetry is opposite b over 2a. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c is your solution. If I were to fold this on the axis of symmetry, one side is going to land on top of the other side. The solutions are where it crosses your x-axis. So on this one, we're going to go ahead and solve this by graphing, and we're going to find out some basic information first. So on this one, we start by always finding what your axis of symmetry is, opposite b over 2a. Well, in this case, it's x equals 1. So if I were to sketch that line, it's going to look somewhere along here. Our next step is figure out what our y-coordinate is. Because your vertex is on your axis of symmetry, that x-coordinate is there as well. So you just take that 1, plug it back into the other equation, and you get -5. So what that is telling us is our vertex is 1, -5. So right 1, down 5. Right there is our vertex. So we could also then figure out the graphing part by looking at our y-intercept, which in this case is -4. And then you would have the mirror side on the other side of the axis of symmetry. You can go ahead and sketch that. And it's going to look something like that. Let's do that one a little bit better. All right. Sorry, I paused there for a second. I actually drew this a little bit better. It looks like it's crossing your x-axis at -1 and 3, so those would be my solutions. Probably a better way to actually find your solutions on this one is factoring. You'd find two numbers that multiply to give you -4, add to give you -2. Those two numbers are -3 and +1. So you just take each of those factors. Remember this from Algebra 1. Set them equal to 0. X is going to be 3. X is going to be -1. So if I were solving this one down here, I would start by finding your vertex, which is -2. Find your y-coordinate, which is 1. Go ahead and find your solutions, and then you're going to graph from there. I could tell that this graph was going to be going downward because my A is negative. All right, the second way is completing the square. When you are completing the square, you're creating a perfect square trinomial. Move your constant over to the right-hand side. Now you have to form that perfect square trinomial. Take your b, divide it by 2, and square it. So here we'd have 2 divided by 2, which is 1 squared. Add 1 to both sides. Once you have the perfect square trinomial formed, go ahead and factor. take the square root of both sides. And you're going to get x minus 1 equals plus or minus 3. Add 1 to both sides. 1, or x equals 1 plus or minus 3. That's actually going to be two problems. 1 plus 3, 1 minus 3. So your two answers are 4 and negative 2. And the last way that we're going to talk about solving a quadratic is the quadratic formula. This should be review. You should have the quadratic formula memorized. If not, there you go. You just pretty much plug in your a, b, and c. A is 1, b is 2, c is negative 8. Follow order of operations. Simplify what's underneath that radical first, which is 36. Square root of 36 is 6. Then you're going to have to go ahead and simplify. Negative 2 plus 6 divided by 2. Negative 2 minus 6 divided by 2. And those are your two solutions. All right, this should be a you try. Go ahead and solve these 4 problems. I would pause the computer, see how you do, then come back and check yourself. 1 and 3, I did by factoring. Number 2, I used the square root. If I needed to, I could have formed a perfect square trinomial, but I already had one. And number 4 was the quadratic formula. All right, that's all I have for you today. Hope you enjoyed.